Welcome to day 6 of our 7 days of calm. So, today I thought we might actually start in Vajrasana if we can. So, we might, how about we come up onto the knees? Now, this might not be accessible for all of you, so let's see. What we want to do is come up onto the knees, but we want to find the feet, okay? So find the toes, the ball of the big toe and the little toe, find your heels. Allow the heels more of their own expression. And then it can be helpful if you take your hands up here, so you follow the thigh bone and you notice like the protruding, tiny protruding bit of the thigh bone there, where it goes in. There's a bit of it that goes into there's like a handle that goes into your hip joints. And we've been, as you know, exploring more of the inner thighs recently, so we're just taking all that into this as we take a breath in. And a breath out, and so it goes, so that you almost feel this collecting here. And the buttocks become almost more defined, and the perineum can see the earth. And the sitting bones have spotted the heels, and they come down towards the heels. They don't collapse on the heels, so you almost come up through the spine a little bit as they find the heels, And the fingertips might find the earth either side. So the feet are still very much alive. And we notice the softness of the inner thighs. And we see if we can soften a little bit behind the pubic bones here. And still the thigh bones have a sense of collecting into the back of the pelvis there. So the sacrum has more freedom and the tailbone has a little bit of weight in it. And then we find from fingertips or hands are resting upwards to the shoulders. Space in the rib cage. The hands might come and rest on the thighs if that's more accessible for you. And maybe we just close the eyes for a moment and just notice the breath. Space with the breath as the breath comes in through the nose into the lungs. The body accommodates the breath with a sense of expanding, especially through the rib cage. Soften any gripping around the groins. Notice what's going on with the neck as well, so see if you can bring even more lightness up into the shoulders, as if the shoulders were like shoulder pads, but bigger than they actually are, like a lightness around them. And the chin always level with the mat. Following your next exhalation, just opening the eyes. And from here, bringing yourself down to lie on your tummies now. Come down onto your tummy. Maybe if you can you just bring the top of your toes, or your big toe anyway, onto the earth, and just let them rest there. So from the heels, as the heels are up in the air, there's almost like, you could imagine if you put like a marble, it's like the body is a marble run. Where that's come from. But put a marble at the top of your heels, they'd roll down, it would roll down, say, it would probably roll off, wouldn't it? But imagine it would roll down and collect in the back of your knees. So let's make that collection point in the back of the knees even more favourable to collect a marble. So from the toes, there's almost like, not a force lift, but a sense of even more roundness through the heels. And then that run all the way from the heels down into the back of the knees, but also from the thigh bones into the back of the knees as well. So it might be that your thigh bones deepen again in the pelvis to the extent that the entirety of the pelvis, so it's not the sitting bones lifting up, but the pubic bones and the hip bones might find a little bit of space away from the earth, but not in a sitting bones lifting up way. They'll go up, but not because you're forcing them up. Okay, so then if you had a marble, then on your respective, on each buttock, it would roll down into the back of your knees. I'm thinking. Okay, and then and it's all getting too much, isn't it? So the legs there has to be a tenderness through the legs. There's a softness through the sacrum. That's what I mean. It's not like you're lifting the sitting bones and lifting the tailbone. There's a softness, and then the fronts of the shoulders settle down towards the earth. So maybe your chin's on the mat, or your forehead. And what we'll do is we'll take a breath in and we'll lift the right arm up and keep the right shoulder coming down. And we'll bend the right elbow. Sometimes you need to look tricky to understand what I mean. Bend the right elbow up to the ceiling, with the arm bone still, the top of the arm bone still coming into the shoulder joint. Turn the right elbow into the centre of the back. And then from the right elbow joint, like a hinge joint almost, pop the right hand underneath the right shoulder. And then we'll do the same on the left side. So the left shoulder stays down as you inhale the left hand up. And then you bend the left elbow up towards the ceiling. And then bend it in towards the centre of the back. And then from the left elbow, the left hand finds the earth underneath the left shoulder. Okay, now, obviously the pelvis will come down to the earth, the pubic bone, the hip bones will come down to the earth as we come into the posture, but we'll start like this. So we'll start the breath, we'll notice the kidneys. I want you to create some space around the kidneys. And as you take a breath in, so the hands find more of the earth, and up the chest comes, but the whole of the chest, not just the front of the chest. The tops of the feet find the earth again, and the hip bones and the pubic bone come down. And just notice what's going on around the back of the kidneys there. Keep there being some spaciousness. That was awful English. Keep a sense of spaciousness. Don't worry about straightening the arms. The shoulders are not coming up to the ears. The arm bones are going deeper in the shoulder joints. And there's still a sense of the thigh bones coming deeper in the pelvis. And ease of movement, ease of space around the kidneys, almost like a hollowness. And slowly, it might be that the arms straighten, but not because you're pushing the hands down and straightening the arms. You could do that. It's not very kind though. So maybe there has to be an orientation of the elbows in towards one another a little bit, and a softness through the space behind the pelvis. And maybe a little bit of weight in the tailbone, and then we'll take a breath in here, Bhujangasana. Take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, release the front body down. But let's now bring the forearms onto the earth, actually. So let's have the elbows underneath the shoulders. The elbows, so our elbows underneath the shoulders, approximately. And the hands. And maybe we'll come back, actually, to that idea of being on the sea wall. Now, I know it's unusual that you'd be lying like this, but you wouldn't be lying. That's the thing you'd be... Well, let's imagine you are, just for now. And you're trying to look over a sea wall. Your forearms are on the earth. And just notice what that does. So you come more into your forearms, it's going to be hard work. The bones, the two lower arm bones. The two lower arm bones, let them find more of the earth. And see if that might take the upper arm bones deeper back into the shoulders. There's space between the shoulder blades. There's space here. So imagine you've got buttons, right? One at the front here, in your between your collarbones, and one at the back between your shoulder blades. And they stay fastened. And then maybe more of the thighs can come up into the pelvis. From the feet. The knees, you've got knees. You haven't lost your knees to the earth. And you breathe. And then on an out breath, you come down from there. Just rest for a moment. Okay, and then let's have a try at this. So maybe now, shall we tuck the toes under this time? We do tend to lose the heels. Don't press the heels away. Have a sense, tuck the toes under, have a sense of the heels trying to find the back of the knees more so. There we go. Heels find the back of the knees more so. That will start to bring your pubic bones away from the earth. So let that happen. As the toes tuck under and the heels start to find more of the back of the knees. See again, like we did earlier in Bhujangasana, see if your hip bones and pubic bone can find more space between themselves and the earth. They come up away from the earth. But not, again, it's not that you're lifting the sitting bones up. It's not like you're coming into an aggressive 8 limb pose. Just a subtle lifting, and there's still, you're not tucking the tailbone under, but there's length. It's So confusing, doesn't it? Now let the fronts of the shoulders soften down towards the earth again. And this time, same thing really, we let the arms stay down as you lift let the shoulders stay down as you lift and inhale the right hand up. And then you're bending the elbow to the ceiling. And in towards the centre of your back. And then pop the hands as close towards the base of your rib cage as possible. Before you do the same on the other side. So keep the left front shoulder down, take a breath in, the left hand comes up. Bend the elbow up to the ceiling and try and orientate the elbow in towards the centre of your back before you bring your left hand towards the base of your rib cage. Okay, now your tops of feet and your pubic bones will come down onto the earth, at least momentarily, in the process of this, because we're going to come into Urdhva Mukha Svanasana. So we'll take a breath in, and as you do, you're going to come more into your hands. And again, it's the entirety of the rib cage coming up, so that's when the pubic bone will probably go down, and the feet will find the earth. And the feet find the earth, so that maybe your legs come up, okay? And there's a softness through the inner thighs. Remember, the inner thighs have a softness and a collecting through the front of the groins there. So you're not trying to stretch, from base of here, torso and legs. There's a collecting of the front of the legs into the torso, and the torso in towards the front of the legs. Can you find that? Can you find that? That collecting. And so the arm bones go deeper in the shoulders, and there needs to still be some space for the kidneys. So how do you find the space for the kidneys? You might find that through the spine. And then we'll take a breath in here, and as you breathe out, the knees can find the earth, and bring yourself onto all fours. And then bring the knees a little bit closer towards the back of your wrist joints, maybe 20 to 30 centimetres. This time let's bend the elbows towards the thighs. Bend the elbows towards the thighs. So as the elbows bend back in space towards the thighs, so the arm bones come forward into the shoulders. So the shoulders are not coming out to the ears, but the arm bones come deeper into the shoulders. And let's come back to the idea, let's tuck the toes under for a start. The heels coming towards the back of the knees. And let's come back to the idea of looking over the imaginary sea wall. Just find your shoulder blades again. So notice the sense of shoulder blades being free from one another, but you're not stretching through the front of your chest either. And then see if you can find that space, that around the kidneys between the base of the rib cage and the pelvis. Oh, and the breath, so much to remember, isn't there? And the softness of the inner thigh. So keep looking over your imaginary sea wall, elbows back, shoulders come forward a little bit. Hollowness in the tummy, hollowness around the kidneys. Take a breath in and a breath out. And then keep looking over the sea wall. It will feel really odd because the weight will be forward in the hands more so. Keep looking over the sea wall. Remember the kidneys, that space. So almost like you've got a wrinkly skin on your back. So you're not stretching it. There's no stretching through the chest or through the space between the rib cage. It's a softness through the inner thighs. The feet have found the earth. And then maybe the gaze changes. We've seen who we want to see on the beach. The gaze, now we look between the hands possibly. And then, or just slightly towards the feet from the hands, just slightly. So there's a sense of the crown of the head collecting in towards the top of the spine. Still shoulders, the arm bones deepening in the shoulders so the upper body's free. Tailbone, that has some freedom. There's a little maybe orientation of the knees in towards one another. Breathe. Notice the breath. And then let's come back to the idea of looking over the seawall again. So we look forward over the seawall and we peer forward, so it takes the weight forward as the feet come behind the hands, but as close towards the back of the hands as possible. Some of you will need to bend the knees to find that, and that's fine. Okay, so we'll take an Uttanasana again here. Breathing. And the elbows might bend towards the shins to take you deeper into the posture possibly. Maybe not, who knows. And then we'll take a breath in here, breath out. And let's just take the feet back a little bit in space, maybe like 20 centimetres or so back. And then let's bend the elbows as if we're going to bring the forearms to the earth. And at the same time, let's just have a little peer over our imaginary sea wall again. So bend the elbows as if you're going to bring the elbows onto the earth. But actually, as you take the elbows down towards the earth, bend them down, have a little peer over the sea wall so that the shoulders will come forward in space. Now you've got the softness of the inner thighs as the knees find the kneecaps, the knee joints then find the upper arms. Keep the buttocks up. Keep the buttocks up in space, not because you're forcing them up, but just because they still are up, because of the alignment of the spine. So you haven't let the buttocks drag you down. Okay, so you've still got this beautiful shapes, beautiful freedom of spine. Softness of the inner thighs, the hands vertically down, still looking over your imaginary sea wall as one foot and the other foot come away from the earth. And there should be a lightness in the posture, no gripping in your core. You're gripping in the inner thighs, and then as you soften the feet down onto the earth, Bakasana. So just having a go at that if you want to. A few more rounds if you need to. So think about that. You need to be peering over your imaginary sea wall. If you look at your feet, you're done for. You need to have a beautiful freedom of spine, so buttocks will be up in the air. And you need to bend the elbows back as the shoulders come forward. Lovely. And then let's bring ourselves all the way down to sit from here. And then let's come down onto our backs. And when you come down onto your back, let the ball of the big toe and the little toe find the ceiling, and just have a little wiggle around. Come back to the idea that your legs are like seaweed almost. Just having that space about hip distance apart from one another, the feet, and then we'll take the feet to the earth, and as we do so, we'll deepen the thigh bones in the hip joints. We'll take a breath in and breath out, breath in, breath out. Ball of big toe. Can the ball of each big toe find the earth first? Your lower spine might roll away from the earth, that's fine. And then find the little toes, and then find the heels. There's a softness through the inner thighs. They're not, the knees are not coming into touch, but there's a slight relationship of them orientating inwards, which will hopefully soften your inner thighs a little bit, broaden into the hips. And then let's just have the hands down beside the body, close in, I guess. But let's start by lifting the right shoulder up and turning the right shoulder towards the left side of the room. And just do that, just hold it. No, I don't say hold it. Just find a sense of space around the right shoulder before that comes back down onto the earth. And then let's do the same. Let's lift the left shoulder up, find a bit of space around it. There it is, almost bigger, turning it inwards towards the right side of the room, and then it comes back down onto the earth. And notice the lower arm bones, how they rest down, and the upper arm bone rest down, and your hands, and maybe they touch the heels, maybe not. So there's a little space between your lower spine and the earth. And find your feet again and your heels, the roundness of the toes extending away. And find the weight of the shoulders on the earth, and we'll take a breath in and breath out from here. Think of the thigh bones going down even though they're going up. So think of the head at the top of the thigh bones here, going down towards your heels. We did that in one of the earlier days. And up we come. So buttocks and spine come away from the earth. They're not gripping the buttocks, and the thighs as well. There's a softness in the inner thighs especially, and like the wave-like shape of the thighs, as if they're protecting the softness of the groins there. And we notice more of the weight of the shoulders, and as we breathe, maybe more of the shoulders comes to the earth. And we're really in our feet though as well. We're in our feet, so the feet hold us. The feet in relationship to the hips, so the thigh bones. The thigh bones go deeper into the pelvis almost, deeper, deeper, deeper. So there's a softness through the inner thighs. We'll free you around your pelvis here, and just notice the space around the kidneys and see if you can find more softness there. And then perhaps this is enough for you right now, but otherwise, depending on how it feels, you might bend your elbows and bring your fingertips underneath your shoulders. The elbows almost, there's a sense of, again, the spaciousness of the shoulders. And it's like the fingertips and the heels want to greet one another. There's a sense of connecting in towards one another. And we'll take a breath in, keep the chin to the chest. As you come up from there, and just notice how that feels. Still the inner knees have that sense of relationship. The buttocks aren't gripping, it's very difficult to talk like this. And then you can release down with an exhalation. Come all the way down, and those of you in bridge also coming all the way down. Ah. And then often there's nothing to do here but just rest into that space, into the heart space. If If you feel to bring the knees to the chest, you're welcome to, but personally I just find coming straight into Shavasana after Urdhva is enough. Satipandasana even. Breathe in, breathe out. So I find those back bends take us straight into the heart space. The practice takes us into the heart space, to the lightness in the heart. So we rest into that, we notice the breath. We're not changing the breath, we just notice it. So we notice the breath coming in like a light into the heart. And as the breath leaves the body, the light in the heart spreads around